free ESPN free mobile app. Now live from the Matt Blatt Kia Studios, here's Josh Hennig.
Hump Day Wednesday edition of Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Josh Hennig, back in the saddle with you as we still have no official news on Nick Sirianni's future, but we know for sure that there's got to be a reason why no Sirianni, no Jeffrey Lurie, no Howie Roseman speaking today to the media. We'll be talking with Dave Weinberg, who covered the Eagles for many years, coming up in less than 20 minutes from now. His thoughts on the Eagles as, look, we are now more than 48 hours removed from the Eagles' loss. And we don't have any clear and concise answers on this team's future. There's still so much in limbo with this team right now. And, you know, one of the great things about having a guy like Dave Weinberg join me each week is that, you know, Dave Weinberg, he covered a lot of different versions of the Eagles team. He has seen this team with the ups and downs. So we'll get his thoughts on the Eagles coming up a little bit later this hour. As always, you guys enjoy the conversation at 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle. So we will get into some of those thoughts with you guys here because, you know, I am on the position, okay, that I don't think Sirianni should be the head coach of this team moving forward. And the only way I could see them bringing him back is if there is a clear and concise group of candidates that they bring in to be the new coordinators. And I mean that plural, because, you know, Mike Gill and I were talking about earlier on the Sports Bash here on 97.3 ESPN. It's not enough for me to be told something's wrong and I don't have an answer. You know, when Nick Sirianni gave this answer about a month ago, you guys remember, I couldn't stand this answer. When he gave this answer, this passive indifference of, you know, because people kept asking him, hey, Nick, you know, your record was this. You started with this, you know, great 10-1 record, and then you lose all these games. You know, what gives? And when Nick Sirianni gave this answer, it was an unacceptable answer to me.
I don't give what we are out there and what our record is or anything, what losing streak or winning streak it goes. We're going to go out there and we're going to work our minds on the detail of what's going on full speed to the snap out there in walkthrough, and then high intensity at practice. There's no magic to this. Like, hey, we do this or that. Like if we knew exactly what it was, we, you know, these last couple of weeks, we would have done that. So it's about going to work every single day.
And to me, that is a huge problem, okay? It's not good enough for you to tell me I don't know what the answer is. Because you telling me you don't have an answer is telling me that maybe you shouldn't have the job. To me, I look at the Eagles as a team that has clear problems. And unless somebody shows me otherwise, I can tell you what the problems are. Number one, you should have never changed the defensive play caller. The defense got worse when pencil in the year boy Matt Patricia took over. The defense got worse. And it didn't just get worse because of the personnel. Yes, it's a very strange mixture of youth and veterans without many guys in their prime. I get that. But how did you slow down the Dolphins and you got destroyed by the 49ers? How did you lock down the Bucs in September, but get them running past you in January? I think the Eagles' defensive personnel is actually not as bad as the end of the season showed. I think there was a lack of discipline. I think there was a lack of execution. There was a lack of there was a lack of legitimate good play calling. On offense, to me, this team failed to put the quarterback in a position to be successful. And I thought Marcus Spears on NFL Live brought up an excellent point when he said this.
And for you to come into this game and have absolutely no plan is more of an indictment on coaching. That is why we talking about Nick Sirianni's job. Like, that is the definition of not putting your players in a position to be successful.
He didn't put guys in a position to be successful. And I think ultimately that if you were to tell me that they're going to change the coordinators and that is the answer moving forward, I would accept Sirianni still being the head coach, because I don't think Sirianni's a bum. I don't think he's not Rich Kotite. He's not Chip Kelly. He's not these past Eagles coaches who hit a ceiling, and instead of trying to break through that ceiling, they just walked back down the stairs and practically gave up. No, I think Sirianni showed you at the ceiling is a Super Bowl. And if the ceiling is a Super Bowl, then go get that. I still think Sirianni is capable as a coach, but I think that he is similar to a system quarterback. He is a guy who is dependent on the talent around him to be successful. And in this case, that talent around him are the coordinators. So either you're going to bring in the type of coordinators that are going to change the environment of what you're bringing to the table. You're going to give Sirianni better people to help him prepare for game day, or you got to get rid of him. That's how I look at it. And I'm not trying to read between the two lines too intensely, but the fact that nobody from the organization is speaking today, no Roseman, no Lurie, no Sirianni, no nothing, I think it's a problem. Because what you're doing is you're sending the players out there to deal with a media contingent that is looking for answers. And the players either A, don't want to answer some of these questions, and they're tired of answering the same questions, or the players know what the problem is, but they don't want to throw somebody under the bus because the players deep down feel like the guys involved can turn this around. Text board is open, 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 973 ESPN mobile app, powered by First Bank. Seattle and come up about 10 minutes. Talk with longtime Eagles beat writer Dave Weinberg for this week's edition of Weinberg Wednesday. Dan and EHT says the problem is that Sirianni, Johnson, Desai are all inexperienced coaches at the positions they were put in. They need a veteran play caller offensively and defensively to help a young head coach. Listen, Dan, if you can find those guys for those jobs, I would say do it. The problem is that there's no clear person available to do that right now. Now, look, obviously a lot will change in the next few weeks. But at this moment in time, unless you're going to convince Eric Bieniemy to be an offensive coordinator again, you want to go out and get EB? I'd be fine with that. But, I mean, that's the only... Frank Reich is probably not coaching ever again, okay? I think Frank Reich's pretty burned out, all right? And unless you're going to find a very experienced defensive play caller, and I mean experience, not like Jonathan Gannon experience, not like Sean Desai experienced, and not Matt Patricia either. Because there's two problems with the defense. The one is that the Vic Fangio scheme is a bust, okay? The first person I heard mention this was John McMullen on the Sports Bash a few months ago here on 97.3 ESPN. And I've heard other guys like Brian Baldinger and Greg Cosell break it down on film since. The Vic Fangio scheme has been figured out. So you got to go find somebody completely different. So, like, for example, if you were to tell me that next year's OC DC combination is like, if it's Greg Roman or Eric Bieniemy on offense, and your defensive play callers are, and I have no inside information on this, so I'm just spitballing names out there. Your defensive play callers are like, Paul Gunther, who worked for the Bengals and the Raiders and the Vikings. Or if it's not him, if you were to go out and get, like, if you were to able to convince like Brandon Staley to be a defensive play caller again and let go of his ego, even though I think that would be a horrible hire because he did a horrible job with the Chargers. I think he was overrated with the Rams, but that's not a good example, honestly. But I'm trying to think of somebody, a defensive guy who's experienced, who's been around, who would be like, could you get Chuck Pagano to leave the Pat McAfee show to go to Philadelphia? I mean, that would be actually kind of funny, but somebody who has serious experience like that, I think those are the kind of guys that I would be okay with. But if it's not someone like that, Danny HT, then I have zero interest in Sirianni still being the head coach. And the problem is that when anonymous texter texts in at 609-403-0973 saying the Eagles flat out suck, that is not an acceptable answer. You, texter, are just as bad as Sirianni saying, if I had the answers, I would have fixed it already. Because the reality is that Jalen Hurts was a worse quarterback in 2023 than 2022. And there's only 3 players who were different on offense. The right guard, Sayamalu, left. You replaced him with Juergens. You brought in Olamide Zaccheaus, and then later Julio Jones to be number 3 receiver. And then, not a player, but the other guy was Shane Steichen. He's gone. So, unless Jalen Hurts is a complete fugazi, then there's got to be a coaching problem. A.J. Brown had a stretch of games where he looked like he could be the MVP of the league. So, no, the Eagles don't suck. They can be fixed. We have the technology. We can rebuild them, as the $6 million man they said on the TV show. Really quick, Jeff in Ocean City at 609-403-0973 says, Josh, what is your Super Bowl matchup after Wild Card Weekend? What are your thoughts on the Pacers getting Pascal Siakam? I hate the Pacers getting Pascal Siakam. I wanted Siakam in a Sixers uniform, and frankly, the Pacers beat you the punch, just like the Knicks beat you the punch with OG Anunoby. Look, for as amazing as the Sixers win was last night, I am deflated by the fact that this is now another guy that you could have had, but that you didn't get. Super Bowl matchup. Jeff asked me again on Friday when I give out my picks for the weekend. Coming up next, we'll ask Dave Weinberg his thoughts on the state of the Eagles after what has been a very frustrating last 48 to 72 hours. Josh Hennick here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN FM and 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle.
Listen to Greeny with Mike Greenberg on 97.3 ESPN.
At the very least, there will be changes in Philadelphia, either with staff or with players. There's going to be a lot of movement there. It just depends on if they feel like Sirianni can fix this next year. Philly looks more about what can you do for me in the future than like a reward for what you've done in the past work. And it's just a matter of if they feel like the team is completely quit on Sirianni, won't play for him anymore, then they have to make a move. But if they feel like he can somehow fix it, then he'll stay. And I just don't think that decision's been completely made.
Greeny, weekday mornings from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN.
If you're a contractor interested in doing lead-based paint hazard control work, there is an opportunity to take part in New Jersey's lead remediation and abatement program. Governor Murphy has committed $180 million in grant money to allow eligible community-based groups to hire qualified contractors to conduct lead-safe repairs in residential units in our state. To learn more, visit leadabatement.nj.gov.
When you use Bounce dryer sheets and your clothes look amazing, it's the sheet. Less static in your life? Yeah, it's the sheet. Smelling fresher than ever? It's the sheet. Oh, so soft fabric? Ooh la la. It's the sheet. Less wrinkles on your clothes? You know it's the sheet. Bounce dryer sheets. More freshness, more softness. Less static, less wrinkles. It's the sheet.
At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every basket, every game, every point, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a three-pointer at the buzzer to tie the game, or a player goes 2 for 2 at the foul line. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only, must be present in New Jersey. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Terms and conditions apply.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Open enrollment is happening right now, New Jersey. Join the many residents who are getting quality, affordable health coverage through Get Covered New Jersey. If you need health insurance, this is the time to enroll. Get Covered New Jersey offers increased plan choices and more savings than ever. 9 in 10 people get financial help for plans that include preventive care, prescriptions, emergency services, and more. And many pay $10 a month or less. Find your plan at getcovered.nj.gov.
Feeling trapped with that old phone? Don't. Getting a new phone is easy. Come into Verizon and get one of our best phones on us with Select Trade-In on Unlimited Ultimate Plan and get a plan that helps you save by only paying for what you need. Act now and get a brand new phone at your Verizon store today. $999.99 device payment or full retail purchase with new smartphone line on Unlimited Ultimate Plan required. Less up to $1,000 trade-in/promo credit applied over 36 months. Promo credit ends if eligibility requirements are no longer met. 0% APR. Trade-in conditions apply.
A healthy weight, more energy, and smooth, regular bowel movements. 3 things everyone strives for.
It's me, Chuck Norris. There's one really important thing we don't talk about enough: our health. Achy joints, digestive issues, weight gain, and fatigue. We're told these are normal signs of aging. So working with the team of health experts, we came up with Morning Kick.
Morning Kick is a revolutionary formula combining 10 different supplements in one. Probiotics that help you lose weight, prebiotics for digestion, superfoods for muscles and joints, and several of the most powerful anti-aging supplements on earth. It'll help you feel youthful, energized, focused, and help manage stress.
Anybody can achieve great health regardless of their age.
Go to roundhouseprovisions.com. Use code SUPPORT or text SUPPORT to 511-511 and claim 40% off today.
Every purchase comes with our 90-day money-back guarantee.
Text SUPPORT to 511-511. Morning Kick. These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Tax fees may apply.
Go to get your game on at the Gallery Bar Booking Games in Ocean Casino Resort this football season. Cheers your favorite drinks while cheering on your favorite team. Get in on the parlay while in the middle of a party. Go for the sports scene and go for the endless screens. Go to the Gallery. Go to Ocean. Go for the win. For more information, visit theoceanac.com. Must be 21 or older to wager or consume alcohol. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
This is Game Night with Josh Hennig on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
We'll get back to text board in just a bit. Keep them coming in. 609-403-0973. Shaner, we'll get to him on his message coming up and others. But right now, joining us, it says every Wednesday, we'll be talking with Dave Weinberg. Dave covered a lot of different Eagles teams over the years, and we'll get his insight on, these exit interviews are always awkward at the end of the season. I feel like these players, they've been put in an unenviable situation. Okay. I think that there is something to be said for the fact that, look, when you don't give the fans and the media the answers they're looking for. And then you send the media in there to see these players as they're packing up their lockers and getting ready for a long offseason. It's difficult for you to rationalize how you expect these guys to answer. I can't expect these guys to answer some of these questions if the team is not putting them in a position to answer them properly. And I think that it was not fair for them to have the players out there and the brain trust of the organization are not available to talk. All right, let's get Dave Weinberg in here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. I think we got him now. Dave, welcome in. How you doing today? All right, Dave's having some sort of technical issue, so we'll try to link up with him in just a moment. Over the hill on the text board really quick. I mentioned Shaner's text at 609-403-0973. Shaner from EHT chimes in and says, not acceptable at all, Josh. You tell him this is Texter on Texter crime. He says, Shaner says the Eagles don't suck. Howie handed the team a bad defense and Nick had a few bad games. He's human. Get him next year. That's from Shaner in EHT. Look, I don't know if he handed them a bad defense, but there was definitely a few major mistakes they made. You know, for example, the team ran it back on Bradbury and Slay. And they probably shouldn't have. I think that what they probably should have done is again, hindsight being 2020, they should have let Bradbury walk. And they should have kept TJ Edwards because the Nakobe Dean experiment did not work out for this team. And so, if Dean didn't work for this team, then you could have at least had TJ Edwards there. And if Dean got injured, you still had TJ Edwards. You went into the season hoping that Nicholas Morrow was going to work, and it didn't work. And so I think that it's not that the defense completely is horrible. I think that there were some specific moves that were made that were wrong. For example, like I said, no Bradbury and you brought back TJ Edwards. That's one example. Maybe if you would have brought back, I know it sounds crazy, but do we think that Marcus Epps would have been better than Terrell Edmonds? I think he would have been. Could have found a way to keep him maybe. Maybe the secondary has less instability back there in that case. Maybe you go out there and invest some of your resources into someone who's not James Bradbury and Reed Blankenship, and maybe you have to trade for Kevin Byard. Like there's so many dominoes that go from just a couple offseason moves. I think that's more of an issue to me than anything else. All right, Dave Weinberg, we got him on the phone line for Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, welcome in. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, Josh. How are you?
Doing pretty good. So I wanted to start with you with this. You've been around for a lot of these exit interview days with the Eagles. Talk about what that is like for someone such as yourself, because, for me, I'm looking at this from the outside in that this is probably the most unenviable day for someone like yourself, because the players don't really want to talk to you guys. You don't really want to bother them, but you're trying to go in there to get answers that they may not want to give you.
Yeah, I mean, there's some guys that you could always go to, and they were going to give you like a decent interview, but it's mostly guys like going into their lockers, emptying them out into giant. They give them like giant trash bags, so they empty all their stuff into there, and then have an exit interviews, and then they're kind of on their way to the golf course or Cancun or wherever they go, and generally like the veterans and stuff who have been through it, a number of years, they would stay around and talk. I'm surprised. From my understanding, nobody talked today, right? Is that?
A couple
what I
guys did. I mean, it was Fletcher Cox, Jason Kelsey had a quick thing to say. There was a handful of guys who talked, but the majority of them were in and out, which is ironic, Dave, because it's very likely that Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox are not here next year, but they're the ones who are sitting there in the locker room talking. It's almost like, for someone like you, you're probably saying, "Hey, Fletcher, Jason, it's great that you're talking to us, but I probably won't see you next year."
Yeah. I mean, the only explanation I can give is they were probably so disappointed and maybe even shocked at the way everything transpired that they just didn't. Maybe they were afraid their emotions were going to get the better of them, so they didn't want to, say anything that might get them in trouble or get them, in trouble with their teammates or the media or whatever you. But yeah, I'm a little surprised because I can remember. I mean, like I said, I've been in locker rooms for 20 some years at the end of seasons, and there's always like plenty of guys to talk to. I'm a little surprised that they would be so inaccessible today. But I guess maybe it's because of the way the season ended. I don't know.
Well, that's part of the problem because you're asking these guys questions that they don't have answers to, and the fact that no Sirianni, no Roseman, no Laurie speaking yet. It's like the brain trust of the organization is MIA, and you're leaving the players in front of the firing squad.
Yeah, it's just the wind. Yeah, that's true. Would have been nice if maybe Sirianni at least should have talked to him. Maybe he's talking for his job right now. I don't know. Yeah, that's a little bizarre too, because usually the front, like Jeffrey will give us like end of the season kind of State of Union address, but I don't know. I don't remember if it was like the last day of the season or if he generally waits a couple of days. I can't recall, but yeah, that was kind of like a bizarre situation to leave those guys just out there to fend for themselves almost.
Speaking of Sirianni, there's a lot of people, Dave, that are looking at him and they're saying this guy can't be back here next year, and it's a catch-22 because on one hand, you have guys like Jason Kelsey and Fletcher Cox who are in the locker room today saying, we love Sirianni. Sirianni is the leader. We want to see him still here. But as I said, Dave, those two guys are talking in support of Sirianni won't be here next year. So how am I supposed to sit here and set the vote of confidence for Sirianni from guys who won't be in that locker room to be a part of that team next year?
Yeah, I wrote a column for you guys about that, and as part of it, I mentioned that I thought Sirianni deserved one more year, but I've changed my mind. I guess I'm allowed to, right?
You're allowed to, yeah, sure.
I just think this team is so far gone that I think they're better off with another coach. I mean, you just his main job is leadership, right? I mean, that's why you have coordinators to handle the offense and the defense and stuff. You can put in your input or your thoughts into it, but at the main time, the main job is to keep the team together and to push forward and overcome adversity. And they failed miserably, and so did he. I mean, the more I thought about it, I'm like, you kept waiting for them to turn it around. He kept saying, if I knew what was broken, I'd fix it. Well, if you don't know what's broken, then how is anybody else supposed to know?
That's the exact point I made earlier, Dave, that it's like, you're the expert. This is your job. We're paying you all this money to know how to fix it. And if you're in the same boat as the rest of us, why do you have the job?
Right. And the more I thought about it, the more I think they're better off. I mean, I know it's shocking the fact that they went to the Super Bowl last year, but the more I think about it, maybe that was the product of Shane Steichen and Jonathan Gannon and the talent that they had to work with, and less Sirianni's input. Because this was the time when he really should have exerted himself as a leader, as a coach, and he didn't do it. He failed terribly.
We're talking with Dave Weinberg here on a Weinberg Wednesday here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. Yes, his extra point columns are over at 97.3ESPN.com. Dave, I said before you came on that, you mentioned Steichen and Gannon. I can see the Eagles front office, Roseman and Laurie saying, look, we want to run it back with you, Sirianni, but we're going to get some bona fide veteran coordinators in here, right? We're not going to have some, green around the gills, fresh guys doing this. No, we're going to go out and get and whoever it is, if the combination is like Greg Roman on offense and Wink Martindale on defense, or Eric Bieniemy on offense and let's say Paul Gunther on defense, right? Like whatever the combination is, that way at least Sirianni doesn't have a bunch of young guys, kind of wandering around the building.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point, Josh. And I actually think Greg Roman would be a pretty good choice. I mean, he's proven the fact that he can work with young, quarterbacks. He did it with Lamar Jackson. He did it with Colin Kaepernick in San Francisco. So maybe he could be the one that gets Jalen Hurts back to where he was before. And, Chicago must think so because they're interviewing him for, I don't know if it's going to be Justin Fields or Caleb Williams, but they must have some confidence that he could work with those guys pretty well. So, yeah, and defensively, it's kind of like the way they brought in Jim Schwartz. I mean, they actually hired Schwartz before they hired Doug Peterson.
Yep.
So that tells you that they kind of valued, a veteran mind to handle one segment of the team. I guess a lot of it, you don't usually have like two guys like that, though. Like the head coach is supposed to be either an offensive or a defensive specialist, and then you usually would hire like maybe a veteran to handle the other part, whether it's offense or defense. So, but yeah, I mean, Sirianni's so lost. I don't know if anybody can fix this at this point. I mean, what are you going to bring him in? What if you hire two veterans? What's he going to do? What's he going to order the flowers and play rock paper scissors? I mean, I don't.
Well, I mean, last year he basically was the CEO of the team. Last year, Steichen called the offense, Gannon called the defense. Maybe he's just a guy who's a good CEO, but he can't do anything else at that level.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't know if the Eagles have ever had that. I mean, Andy Reid was the offense, Chip Kelly was the offense, Doug Peterson was the offense, Ray Rhodes was the defense. I mean, I think you got to have a guy who can control one segment of the team, I guess, in addition to overseeing everything. I just don't know if he's capable of doing it. I guess he was last year, but it clearly wasn't this year. I mean, I don't. That was such a collapse. I mean, I can't even. I've never seen anything like that ever.
Yeah, because the other thing is that, and I'm not saying this as a reactionary person, but my first thought when I was, because Monday night we were all like, this is ridiculous, right? I mean, nobody in the right mind was enjoying watching that game. But the part of me is looking at the game, like everyone looks lost and confused in that team on Monday. Sirianni, everyone looked like they were in a daze. And I just kept thinking, who's the guy who's walking in and fixing this? Because no offense to anyone who's available, Dave, but like, am I really convinced that Belichick or Harbaugh or Eric Bieniemy or whoever, like any of these, like are any of these guys really coming in here and like automatically fixing it? Or like, is some of the problems with the roster too?
Yeah, I honestly, I'd be stunned if it was Belichick or Harbaugh or Pete Carroll, only because I don't, could be wrong, but I don't think Lurie's ever hired a former head coach. He's always the guy who wants to invent the wheel. He wants the new sexy hire that nobody else is really thinking outside the box, the former quarterbacks coach or offensive coordinator or college coach. The fact that Harbaugh was in the Niners, already, I don't think that, I don't see them just bringing in a guy to that's already done it before. It seems like Lurie and Roseman are always the type that want to turn somebody into a hero. So I don't know who that would be, but and yeah, the talent. I guess the talent's there, right? I mean, offensively, anyway. I mean, as we've talked about before, defensively they made some huge mistakes in the offseason. I kind of give him a pass on James Bradbury only because no one saw that coming. I mean, he had like 6 or 8 interceptions last year, didn't he? And they gave him a big contract. I don't think anybody thought he would fall off the cliff like Gassama, I mean, I'm surprised he didn't eat lunch in his car. I don't know. It was just, that was like a shocking downfall and he had like about the worst games you could have in the playoff game the other night. That was embarrassing. I actually felt bad for him, to be honest with you.
But Dave, the problem with Bradbury is that now you're locked into that money for a couple of years. You can't easily get out of it. Like, I know Howie Roseman is a salary cap wizard, but I don't even know if he's got the magic for this.
Yeah, I know. And you talked about the other guys too. I mean, Javon Hargrave, TJ Edwards, Marcus Epps. C.J. Gardner-Johnson. I mean, if you could have kept 2 or 3 of those guys, I think you'd have been okay. I don't know why you would let all those guys go and think that you have enough to plug the holes. I mean, the holes were just Kaiser White. The holes were just too big to fill. I mean, I don't know what they were. I guess they were counting on the Kobe Dean, I guess, right? And then he got hurt, so that was the end of that. But I didn't think any of those safeties were capable of filling that role.
Yeah,
Even
I mean,
Reed Blankenship. I mean, it is a cool story and all, but I don't think he's that good.
I mean, Blankenship's a solid player, but he shouldn't be your playmaker, Dave. Like he shouldn't be
absolutely not. Absolutely not. Yep.
You know, like for example, if you were to say, I did not want CJ Garner Johnson to stay. There was obviously some sort of something going on there with him and his bad attitude. But let's say he did stay, at least a guy of that caliber offsets Blankenship, right? You know, you're not asking Reed to be the number 1 safety. He's number 2 safety. I think he functions fine. You know, he can be, you know, it's like all those years that we had 20 different guys playing against Nick Dawkins, right? Michael Lewis's, Quentin Michaels. Blankenship can be the guy playing next to the guy.
Right. Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think Sidney Brown is going to be that player eventually, but he's not yet. Right. I know some people are really down on him, but I thought he showed a lot of potential and a lot of growth. But yeah, you couldn't expect him to step right in and do it. They didn't expect him to do that. I don't think they kind of force fed him into it. But and Kevin Byard certainly wasn't the right guy. I mean, a lot of people I guess maybe it was you that was saying, they signed a lot of former Pro Bowlers, right?
Right.
Shaq Leonard, Kevin Byard. The key word here is former.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason why they were available. So, and they quickly found out that that's why they're not Pro Bowlers anymore, because they can't play. Julio Jones, same thing. I mean, he had a couple of touchdown passes, but other than that, he was useless.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that Julio Jones had 3 touchdown catches this year is more of an indictment on the Eagles offense than it is on Julio Jones' ability to play. It's the offense, Dave, was so erratic and it was so inconsistent and it was so Jekyll and Hyde that they accidentally got Julio Jones to be the most productive he's been since 2020.
Right. And I heard some people complaining about the running game, that if they could just fix the running game, everything will be okay. What's wrong with the running game? DeAndre Swift was 5th in the league in rushing, right? And he barely touched the ball. It wasn't the players that did that. It was the freaking system that they didn't run the ball enough. It wasn't the talent that they couldn't do it. They just didn't want to.
Yeah, it's the whole, hey, well, it's, the comment that Marshall Newhouse, the former offensive lineman, made about the Eagles offense, saying, they run it like a Madden video game. They don't run a real offense at times. And, defenses are salivating because they know that some of the play calling is predictable. And I think that's why, to me, you need somebody who's not Brian Johnson calling the plays. You need somebody who has been around the block a little bit and seen a few things. And, you talk about Greg Roman. I agree. I think Greg Roman would be a great guy because you mentioned Kaepernick. By the way, he worked with Alex Smith before that. Okay. And Tyrod Taylor, when he became Tyrod Taylor in Buffalo, it was with Greg Roman as the offensive coordinator. So
exactly,
he's done it with Alex Smith, Colin Kaepernick, Tyrod Taylor, and Lamar Jackson. I think that's a good enough resume to say that if anyone is going to make Hurts again, it's going to be him.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I just, the thing about Brian Johnson, I mean, I get he's close to Hurts and all that, but he's not an offensive coordinator. He just isn't. And, I heard somebody talking on another station, I think it was this morning, that about how they were asking people if Hurts should have a say and whether people stay or go. No. Why does he deserve a say on whether Brian Johnson or Nick Sirianni stay or go? I don't care what he thinks about them. I mean, I really don't. He's like 25 years old or whatever. What has he done to deserve that kind of cachet? No, I'm not asking his opinion on this.
Dave, before I let you go, I do have to ask you, I know this is slightly tongue-in-cheek. If by the end of the week, Nick Sirianni and Mike McCarthy are both fired and they're both on the open market, who is more likely to get a job again?
Oh, McCarthy, I think.
You
Only
think
because
so?
he was in Green Bay too. Yeah. Boy, that's a tough call. We were both so bad. Yeah, I think Sirianni's got to take a step back. I mean, he won't get a job as a head coach. He might get a job as a coordinator first, I think. If you're looking for a head coach, I think McCarthy might be the better guy. Might be the guy who gets it before him.
It's interesting because Ed Werder was, kind of drawing the connectors on Twitter the other day, Dave, and he was saying that, McCarthy first got the Green Bay when John Schneider was the GM, and apparently McCarthy met his wife because of John Schneider when they worked together in Green Bay.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
So there's now the theory out there that if McCarthy is fired by the Cowboys, he could go to Seattle and be their head coach.
I wonder where Mike Vrabel's going to go. I thought that the Titans made a huge mistake letting him go. I think he'll get a job like in 2 seconds once everything settles.
The weird thing about Vrabel is that he is the ultimate I don't call either side of the ball guy. So, like, if you're bringing him into a team, you're going to hope that he's going to hire the right coordinators,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Although I guess he's a defensive guy at heart, but yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, but you know how it is. I mean, a guy like him, I've watched enough Titans games to know that he wasn't the guy calling the defense all the time. He was the commander in chief of the team.
Yeah, I'm curious. Like, I think Sirianni's future depends on how he's regarded around the league. I don't know that people like him or not because he's so arrogant and so boisterous and, giving the finger to fans and yelling at people and yelling at opposing coaches, referees. I don't know that anybody wants that in their organization if they're looking for stability and leadership. I think he might have burned so many bridges that he doesn't get another head coaching job.
It's weird because Chris Long brought this up on his podcast, the Green Light podcast, about how, like, when you're winning, the Sirianni rhetoric and mannerisms, it plays well when you're winning, but when you're losing, it doesn't play well. And you just have to wonder, is a guy like that, like, is he someone who has to maybe get knocked down a peg so he learns from his mistakes?
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I think that might be the case.
Dave Weinberg at Dave Weinberg 19 on Twitter, Extra Point columns over at 97.3 ESPN.com. And he joins me each and every week here for a Weinberg Wednesday on 97.3 ESPN. Dave, appreciate you. I'm glad we've got you on the phone, at least to have the conversation this week. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, hopefully you can get this live stream worked out because I even washed my hair for this. Now it's a waste.
I can't solve all your problems. Okay, Dave.
There you go. All right, Taz.
I'll talk to you later.
Again, as always.
Absolutely. Dave Weinberg joining us here on Game Night on 97.3 ESPN. All right. I see text on the text board. Ryan from Manahawkin. I'll get to you and more coming up. 609-403-0973. Your DMs into 97.3 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
It's Philadelphia Flyers hockey tomorrow night on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Listen as Tim Saunders and Todd Padour bring you all the exciting play-by-play action.
The shot, down the rebound, they score! And who else but Cam Atkinson?
It's Flyers Star tomorrow night. Coverage begins at 7 p.m. It's Flyers hockey all season long on South Jersey's radio home for Philadelphia Flyers hockey, 97.3 ESPN.
Stop the countdown. Don't let the new year pass you by without upgrading your ride. So bring any trade, no matter the make, mileage, or condition. We'll take it, even if you owe thousands more than it's worth, and put you into a new matte black Kia with low, 0 down payments, 0.9% financing, and 0 down payments until April. And only matte black Kia has a 4-day love it or leave it return policy. We know bad things happen to good people. We want to approve you. We finance your future, not your past. Even if you're currently stuck in a loan or lease, we want to get you released and into your new matte black Kia with 0 down, 0 payments until April on every new Kia in stock.
It's gotta be a
Matt Black Kia.
With approved credit, not all will qualify. Credit may affect down payment. Offers can be combined. Go to mattblackkianj.com for complete details. 888-505-6670. Price includes all costs to be paid by consumer, except for licensing, registration, and taxes through KMF at $21.22 per thousand for 48 months. Rebates and incentives to dealer. Expires 2/2/24. Matt Black Kia, 6211 Black Horse Pike, Egg Harbor Township, and on Route 37 in Toms River.
We all make resolutions this time of year, and let's face it, most of them won't stick. But here's one that's not only easy to keep, but will help you feel healthier all year long. Navage. Navage provides quick, drug-free nasal relief by washing saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out of the other nostril. This time of year, when everyone is sick, Navage helps by sucking out germs, bacteria, and viruses trapped in our noses that cause us to feel miserable. And come allergy season, it does the same with dust, pollen, and other allergens. And unlike medications that can take time to help, if they're effective at all, Navage helps treat congestion symptoms in seconds flat, without drugs. This New Year's, resolve to use drug-free Navage to help you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier all year long. Ask for Navage at Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Target, or find us online at Navage.com. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
eBay Motors is here for the ride. 120,000 miles of night drives, daily commutes, and who knows how many.
Are we there yet?
Through countless fixes, elbow grease, and a new radiator, you kept your ride alive. With eBay Motors, you have over 122 million parts to keep it running. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they'll be the perfect fit every time. Plus, at these prices, well, we're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
Wendy's new breakfast 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles let you create your own delicious combo. Choose from a sausage biscuit, egg and cheese biscuit, small seasoned potatoes, and a medium hot coffee. But it's obvious which combo's the best. Sausage biscuit and small seasoned potatoes. Well, maybe it's the fresh cracked egg and cheese biscuit with a medium hot coffee. Or 2 savory sausage biscuits. Whichever you pick, you can't go wrong. Choose wisely. Choose Wendy's new 2 for $3 Biggie Bundles.
Limited time only. U.S. price and participation may vary. Not valid in a combo. Single item at regular price.
With GMF financing to qualified buyers excludes Corvette, excludes prior sales.
It's a new year everywhere, but at Bennett Chevrolet, some things don't change because there's still no beating Bennett. That's right. Bennett Chevy kicks off 2024 just like every other year with the best deals anywhere on new and pre-owned vehicles. You still pay what our GM supplier employees pay, not a penny more. Plus, you keep all the rebates. Unlike many dealers that give you either or, Bennett gives you both. The GM supplier employee price plus all the rebates. And you save even more with Bennett's available 1.9% financing. Looking for used? Get an astounding $8,000 minimum for any old clunker towards any pre-owned in stock. That's at least $8,000 for total junk. So imagine how much Bennett pays for a good trade. And Bennett still offers the best buying experience in the business with a sales team paid on your satisfaction, not how much you spend. Imagine that. Salespeople with your best interest in mind. Together, let's drive at Bennett Chevy, Egg Harbor Township, and BennettChevy.com.
Hey, is this line secure?
Franco's cybersecurity firm secured a contract, and that's all we're allowed to say.
We have a green light on hiring.
He needs web security professionals with a military background.
3 teams of 4, 24-hour rotations, but Protocol Zulu is on a need-to-know basis.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews right from the Indeed dashboard, so you can stay organized and connected all the way to the hire. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
97.3 ESPN has teamed up with Seize the Deal for incredible weekly offers from some fantastic local restaurants. Here's this week's big deal.
Get a $50 gift card good for use at Vincenzo's Ristorante in Galloway for just $25.
Get this great deal starting Friday at 9 a.m. at seizethedeal.com. Hurry, chances are this deal will sell quickly. For more info on this great deal, go to seizethedeal.com.
Now, more Game Night with Josh Hennick on 97.3 ESPN and on the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app powered by First Bank of Sea Isle City.
We'll get back to the text in just a moment at 609-403-0973 and your DMs into the 973 ESPN mobile app powered by First Bank Sea Isle. I put a question out there on the 97.3 ESPN Facebook. So if you're not following us on Facebook, go check us out over there because I put the question out and I'm going to get into this question tomorrow. So don't answer it right now on the messages. Jump on the Facebook if you got Facebook and answer it there. And I'll read off some of your answers tomorrow. But I asked the question, now that the Eagles season is over, what is something that you're doing locally that you wouldn't do if Eagles season was going on? Like, what's an activity? What is something that you would do that if the Eagles were playing this weekend, you wouldn't do? Like, for example, is there like a weekend getaway that you've been wanting to do? Or is there like, someone like me, for example, I watch the majority of the movies I watch in the NFL offseason. I don't watch it during season because I don't want to miss games usually. So, and if I do go to a movie, I strategically make sure it's a time that's not going to interfere with me watching the Eagles or me watching another game or something. So, but during the offseason, like for example, this weekend, I could easily go watch a movie before the NFL games on Saturday and Sunday. Okay, that's something, I could do this weekend. Maybe it's something where, there's a local, craft brewery you've been wanting to visit, but it's a little bit further away than you usually would drive if you want to get back home in time for the Eagles game. Or you want to, what is something locally that you can do now at the Eagles season is over that you don't feel obligated to be planted in front of the television because you don't want to miss a single game or snap of the Eagles? So go to our Facebook, Nat973 ESPN on Facebook, and let me know your thoughts now. I'll get all your thoughts together tomorrow for the show. We'll discuss it tomorrow here on Game Night on 973 ESPN. All right, over on the messages, Ryan and Manahawkin says, thoughts on getting Wink Martindale as Eagles defensive coordinator? I think Wink Martindale is still a good coordinator, but I think that bringing him in would require a certain level of commitment to certain personnel. Because the problem with Martindale's scheme, which is also similar in structure to a guy like Todd Bowles, when you're running the kind of defense that is a high pressure defense, you need to make sure that you have the athletes at linebacker and safety and corner to make up for the situations when the blitz doesn't get there. Because when you're bringing 5 and 6 guys on a blitz, you are now going to leave more gaps on the back end of the defense. And when you have those gaps at the back end of the defense, you either got to make sure those rushers are always getting to the quarterback, or you got to have the right kind of athletes to cover up on the back end. So I think it's a bit of a personnel thing than anything else. Anonymous Texter says, Eagles made the same mistake with Jalen Hurts did with Carson Wentz. They overpaid him for being a mediocre quarterback. Well, that's still to be proven. Wentz was never the same after the injuries. The injuries piled up and destroyed him as a quarterback. And I think it's a huge part of the conversation. We don't know if Hurts is a mediocre quarterback or not because we haven't seen him have enough talent around him in order to make a difference. I think that's a huge part of the thing. Danny HC says it's possible the Eagles were just gassed or tired. Lack of depth was definitely an issue this season. Look, you're an NFL player, professional athlete. You should be able to go out there and handle it. If you can't, then maybe you're not the right player to film. I'm so convinced it's a coaching problem. If a coach can't put a player in a position to be successful, he shouldn't be coaching. That's my position. I'm Josh Hennig. This is Game Night. Talk to you tomorrow.
Listen to Greeny with Mike Greenberg on 97.3 ESPN.
If you're telling me I have the option of working with Jeff Lurie or with Jerry Jones, I go with Lurie because I think I can say to him going in, I'm going into this eyes wide open. You're the boss. I get that. No one else tells me how to coach my team. You want someone else doing the personnel and all that kind of stuff? That's fine.
Greeny, weekday mornings from 10 a.m. to noon on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.